Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's Mind Money here, your guide to all things money past, present and future. Today we're diving headfirst into one of the most turbulent periods in American history, the Great Depression. We're talking soup kitchens, breadlines and unemployment rates that would make even the most stoic economists shudder. But how did things get so bad? How did a nation known for its prosperity and opportunity find itself in such dire straits? Well, that's what we're here to uncover. What if I told you the US economy once completely collapsed? Like, unemployment hit 25%, banks shut down, and people were literally lining up for food? Yeah, that actually happened. It was called the Great Depression, and today we're breaking down the top 5 reasons it happened. Fast, simple, and with no boring textbook stuff. Let's go. Our story begins in the 1920s, a time of unprecedented economic growth and societal change. Picture this: flapper dresses, jazz music, and a palpable sense of optimism in the air. America was riding high on post-war prosperity, and the stock market became everyone's favorite pastime. People from all walks of life were pouring their savings into stocks, hoping to strike it rich. But as we know, what goes up must come down. And in October 1929, the music stopped. Black Thursday saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummet by almost 13%, wiping out billions of dollars in wealth in a single day. Now, the stock market crash was a major blow, no doubt, but what really turned this crisis into a full-blown depression was the domino effect it triggered, particularly within the banking system. See, back then banks weren't as tightly regulated as they are today. There was no FDIC, no safety net for depositors. So when people got spooked by the stock market crash and rushed to withdraw their money, many banks simply didn't have enough cash on hand. Thousands of banks across the country failed, wiping out the life savings of millions of Americans. Businesses, starved of credit, were forced to shut down, leading to massive unemployment. Chapter 3, Too Much of a Good Thing, Overproduction and Falling Prices. Okay, so we've got a stock market crash, a banking crisis, and now let's add another ingredient to this economic cocktail of disaster overproduction. Throughout the 1920s, American factories had been churning out goods at an astonishing rate, but as wages stagnated and the effects of the crash rippled through the economy, demand began to dwindle. Prices plummeted as businesses desperately tried to unload their inventories, but it wasn't enough. With profits shrinking, companies had no choice but to lay off workers, further exacerbating the unemployment crisis.
Economics. You help the folks at the top, you boost the profits, you give them a tax cut, and it'll trickle down to a good job for me and all that. I'm going to be more nice now than I ought to be. There was a grain of truth to that, but it isn't anymore. And that's perhaps the most important thing that I can tell you. And I'll say it as bluntly as I know how. The American empire is over. We're done. We peaked about 12, 15 years ago, and we are on a down. And it's very hard for the American people, which I understand. I am one. It's hard to get your head around that. We've had a century of on the way up, which is a lot more fun than on the way down. But it does happen to every empire. We're only the latest. Look at the British, how far they've fallen. We're in that process. So the problem with the trickle down is, yeah, there might be more jobs, but they're going to be created in China.
Chapter 4, The Government's Role When Good Intentions Backfire. Now, you might be thinking, where was the government in all of this? Surely they must have done something to try and stop the bleeding, right? Well, they did try, but their efforts, unfortunately, often made things worse. One prime example is the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. By raising tariffs on imported goods, the government effectively choked off international trade. This only deepened the depression, making it even harder for American businesses to sell their goods overseas. Chapter 5, The Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get a Depression. Last, but certainly not least, we come to what many historians consider a root cause of the Great Depression: vast income inequality. While the Roaring Twenties might seem like a time of widespread prosperity, the reality was far more nuanced. A small percentage of Americans controlled the lion's share of the nation's wealth, leaving the majority of working-class folks struggling to make ends meet. The Great Depression exposed the fragility of an economic system that allowed such a massive wealth gap to exist. Chapter 6, Lessons from the Abyss. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of the 5 key factors that led to the Great Depression. It was a perfect storm of economic missteps, misguided policies, and underlying systemic issues. But the Great Depression wasn't just a period of immense hardship, it was also a time of profound learning. It taught us the importance of financial regulation, the interconnectedness of the global economy, and the perils of unbridled speculation. Most importantly, it showed us the human cost of economic failure and the need for a more just and equitable society. If you learned something new, hit that like button.